when the streets are held hostage.
Bomb! Break the dog! Hit the siren!
Two of the city's finest must come together.
Green, red, green? Wait, aren't dogs colorblind?
And fight as one.
What if we sew the dog's head onto the man's body?
Great idea!
So DreamWorks decided to make another movie based on a children's book series, and they did it with Captain Underpants, and with this one we now have Dogman, which is done by the same author. Okay, so I think when it comes to doing movies based on these children's books, there's really only been like a couple that have worked. Like Cloudy with a Chance Meatballs, that worked. Captain Underpants, I don't think did. Because it was like, okay, you're trying to cram, I think it was like 4 or 5 books into an hour and a half movie, and it just doesn't fit. And also the kind of stuff you're going for here is not good either. This one, I don't know how many books they're trying to cram into this, but it doesn't really work. Okay, so the plot of this movie is we have this guy who's a police officer who has his pet dog, and you know they're partners. And after a freak accident, the guy's head is not functional, but the dog's head is. And these two, I guess, brainless doctors say, "Hey, let's pull a Frankenstein and just put the dog's head on the guy because we're idiots, and just send him out and see what happens." And nobody says, like, okay, I understand that this is a kid's book. You know, I understand that there's really no logic with this, but there's nobody in here that's going, that's normal. That's totally normal. And especially since the villain is basically a I guess you would say a Lex Luthor cat. You know, just wants curse you, dog man, kind of thing. I'm like, really? Like, okay. But, you know, then it just goes from there. This is basically, we have like, all right, here's the story, and we're just gonna literally just improv this as we go. The story doesn't matter. You know, it just doesn't. So, get the positive out of the way first. The look, they got that down. It felt very much like they ripped the illustrations from the books and just brought it into 3D animation. And I like it when they do that. I like when they're accurate to the books in that regard. And that was cool. The villain is voiced by Pete Davidson. I thought he was going to get on my nerves, but he actually didn't. I was like, that was surprising. So, wow, look at that. Now that the positives out of the way, let's get on to the negatives. There is a lot of puns. This movie's humor is trying to be all like puns and stuff. And I can't tell you how many times I just went, like, come on. For DreamWorks, I expected better from them, because this felt like a complete 180. Like they just went complete backwards with this. Like the Captain Underpants movie. It was just like, does anyone really remember that? No. Okay. Instead of, something like Puss in Boots 2, where with that, the story was really interesting. The humor was something I was like, wow, that actually shocked me on how funny that was and the kind of humor they did. it was surprising. With this, it was like, we need a movie out. Who cares? Who cares about it? You know, it's for the young kids who just kind of want to see keys jingle in front of their faces. That's this kind of movie. There are certain parts that did not need to be there. Like they introduce a second villain who's voiced by Ricky Gervais. And they say like, oh yeah, there's this villain, but he's been defeated. The only way to do this is to do this. And it's like, this is going to come into play later. Okay. But that doesn't happen until like the last 20 minutes of the movie. And at that point, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot you were here. Wasn't needed like at all. It felt like they were trying to throw too many ideas in here. And we're just like, we need to just cram it all into one movie. And at times, especially during the finale, it felt they were just like, oh, we're an hour in and we have like 20 minutes left. We gotta wrap this up quickly. So they just go, oh, here's this, this happens, and this happens, just go. It felt like a rapid fire. And it's pacing just was so off. I was like, what? So many things in this were just felt very crammed. Like I would have liked it if they fleshed it out in better, but they didn't. And because they were too focusing on, oh yeah, we got to do this. And it's like, guys, you're not doing a 2-hour movie, or you're not doing 2 movies. You're doing one, I think 85 to 90 minute movie. And you're focusing all on the humor that isn't funny. So, what are you just doing here? Like, I liked how they, Pete Davidson's character, the cat, they kind of treat him like he's kind of like a Wile E. Coyote, but a little bit smarter. Because like he thinks of all this stuff and then it just backfires on him like so quickly. And it's just like, yeah, okay. And did I get any laughs out of this? There were a couple of times I chuckled, but it was like okay. And then moved on. Like really nothing there. So at the end of the day, I was expecting, okay, look, when you have a title like Dogman, and it looks the same, it acts the same as Captain Underpants, you're really not going to get a lot of quality, and you're going to get a lot of rushness. And that's what this movie does, is it rushes everything. It really felt like they had a time slot and just went, oh, we got to make a movie quickly. But with DreamWorks, they always do great with the animation. They actually put time into that. But it's just, at the end of the day, this felt soulless. Like it didn't matter. I really feel like after this year, people are going to forget that this movie existed. It was like, oh yeah, that's right. They did that. Kind of like Captain Underpants. I saw that around when it came out. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of forgettable. And moved on. And then a couple years later, a friend of mine was just like, oh yeah, I just saw it. I'm like, what? You just saw what? Oh yeah, that's right. That movie. And so I kind of found this movie a little annoying. A lot of its humor is really childish and maybe like funny to 5-year-olds. So it's not fully awful, but I would absolutely pick a different DreamWorks movie over this one. So I'd give this a fine. Like I said, like the look of it was down. Some of the voice acting, I thought was good. Like from Pete Davidson, Lil Rel just was screaming the whole time, and he was kind of pulling the Josh Gad thing from Pixels. And I was just like, yeah, okay, dude, shush, like shut up. Isla Fisher was just kind of there a little bit. And then Ricky Gervais, while I think is funny, didn't need to be here. So it was a jumbled mess. And I think if you put it on just like in the background, it's a movie you put on in the background. That's what this is. And like I said, if you have like 4 or 5 year olds, then maybe they would like this, but it kind of feels like jangling keys in front of their faces. So not awful, but definitely not good either.
Dogman, you only have one job to do. Keep your eyes on those monitors. So if somebody breaks out your favorite chew toy and waves it around, you look at the monitors. And if somebody just happens to have an Eastern gray squirrel, you look at the monitor. Why do you always gotta lick the inside of my mouth?